Building something for SEMA was always the dream. Once I got the engine for Chainsmoker, this crate engine, I knew that this had to happen. And when we did it for 2019, it was awesome, but we didn't actually finish it. So we went back now for 2021 with this version 2 to be able to show off to the world, because SEMA is the world's largest aftermarket car show. People come from all over the world. People build vehicles just for this show. It took basically everything that I had, all of my time, all of my money, all of my sanity. The 6 months before SEMA 21 were mainly spent working on version 2. Kale and myself, we went full bore at all hours in order to try to get it done. Kale's my lead version 2 tech. We were in that slam of those last 2 months trying to get it done, and we basically had to get to SEMA for this certain date or else we wouldn't get in. When it came down to that final wire, we were very, very tight, and it was basically living at the shop for myself for the last few days. 2 days before we ended up leaving, I was working on Chainsmoker at 3:30 in the morning, and I actually hadn't posted an Instagram update for it for like a month and a half, and I was like, okay, sat down, turned my music off, and about 10 minutes into that, I hear a sound in the back of the shop, and I wasn't sure what it was. It sounded a lot like a shop fan going on, so I'm just kind of leisurely walking towards the back of the shop, and I get towards the door, and I notice that it sounds a lot like a diesel truck, specifically a lot like a Ford Power Stroke 6-liter, because they just chug away, chug, 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 chug. And I got to the door and I basically put my hand on it, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up, because I was like, that is a 6-liter, and I've got one of those parked right behind this door. So without even really thinking, I opened up the door, swung it open, and just surprised the heck out of 2 guys that were standing there that were currently stealing my truck. All I had with me was my phone, so I turned it on, shined the flash on these guys.
Yo, f*** off, man. Get the f*** out of here. Yo, get the f*** out of here, guys. Get the f*** out of here. Get the f*** out of here, man. Just get the fuck out of here.
He was barking orders at the other guy, like, go get in the truck, get in the truck. And he was trying to kick the door in on me and try to get me back inside. Busted the door back open, ran over to where the littler guy was hopping in the truck to try to drive it away. They both ended up surrounding me in that corner over there. Bigger guy said, you're going to get stabbed. He says, do you want to get stabbed? And he pulls out a wrench. And I saw that there was a wrench and not a knife and not a gun. And I have been hit in the head with a big wrench before. It's a whole nother story. So I do kind of know what that feels like. And I said, I'm not giving up. So I tried to get in there, but Bud came at me. He took 2 steps, smashed me with the wrench, hit me in the back of the head. And then I was disorientated. He takes 2 steps back, and then he takes 2 more steps forward. Bam, smashes me again. And his buddy jumps into the truck. I tried to open up that door, but I couldn't because they had busted it all open to get inside of it. So I ran around the front of the truck. And luckily the Ford 6-liter is a very chuggy truck, so it doesn't have a lot of pep in its step, especially when it's cold. So it was slowly moving away, and I ran in front of the truck while it's driving away, got to the passenger side, opened it up, jumped inside of it, reached across with my right arm to turn off the ignition, and then used my body to shove him out. And then he ran off to his buddy in the getaway vehicle, and I tried to pull out my camera and got them as they were driving away to check what kind of vehicle it was.
I saved one.
I saved one.
Yes, mother. I had so much adrenaline that I kind of forgot the fact that he hit me with his wrench a couple times in the back of my head, and I got a real nice goosebump. Oh yeah, she's fucking leaking something nice. And then I had a little mini breakdown because my life is fucked right now, and this is just the icing on the cake for everything that's going on. I really have no time to do fucking anything, and I'm absolutely, I don't know. And then I called the police. They showed up, they did a report, they called the paramedics, who then came down and said that they needed to give me stitches, and I just didn't have time for stitches. So I said, you guys need to get out of here. And I basically kicked them out, and then I went and slept on my couch for about 3 or 4 hours,
before Kale came in the next day and we got right back to work. Our roll-in date was October 30th. We had to be there at noon or else we were gonna lose the spot. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. And when those guys broke into the shop, that took another 2 hours out of my 48 hours that we had until we had to leave. So we still had to do lots of front bumper work. I still had to do more mounts in here. We had to do wiring, final assembly of all of the main stuff. And we didn't quite even get to finish everything, including the wiring, but we'll get to that in just a little bit here.
I was supposed to leave 16 hours ago. I'm getting to the point where I'm not gonna be able to leave at all pretty soon, but I'm working on the bumper right now.
We basically, at that point in time, were running into our next problem, which was the border.
And I'm just finishing up some last minute things and we're rolling out of here. And I really have no idea what's gonna happen at the border.
It was 19 and a half hour drive from Calgary to Vegas, and we gave ourselves 21 to 22 hours to get the entire thing done. We were not going to not make it. And we had already been told about a few other guys, Canadian SEMA builds that had been turned away at the border.
Kale and I have been, and Dario too, have been brainstorming heavy because we need to get across. And if we don't get across, then we're just not going to SEMA.
The border crossing was closed for non-essential travel. So unless you were getting your vehicle brought down by a shipper or a transporter, you were not getting across the border. And we were going to still chance it and try it. So we worked for that whole day, and then the night before, this one was fully Kale. He called up the border security and said, "What do we need to do?" And they told us that if we got a letter from our main sponsor that stated they could not show at the car show without their product in our vehicle, if we could prove that, then they would let us across. We loaded up Chain Smoker, drove through the literal first snowstorm of the year, and we kept saying like, "Oh, we're gonna make it before the snow, we're gonna make it before the snow," and then it just kept getting pushed back, and then sure enough, we didn't make it before the snow.
It's not a proper SEMA trip if you don't feel like crying the day that you leave.
How are we looking? Surprisingly mint.
Just a little bit of snow. SEMA ready?
Through a literal snowstorm to the border where we were quite nervous. You could see to the left is where the passenger traffic is supposed to go, and then to the right is where the semis go. And there was nobody else there except a bunch of semis, so we just waited in line behind the semis. And the border agent was about 5 feet higher than we were. And he asked us for all of our paperwork, and I explained the situation about Chain Smoker and how we were getting it over the border and how they needed us there and all that sorts of stuff. Showed him the letter, and he wasn't too pleased that we had already gone through that gate. He asked Kale to lean across my lap so that he could look at him while he was talking to him. And he said, "You know what? You guys are not essential." He's like, "You're not, like, this is ridiculous. You're not essential. You're not getting through. Pull over to the next left, come inside, and we're gonna get you pulled around." So Kale and I defeatedly drove up, and we're like, "Okay, well, we're still gonna do our best." Like, you never know. You never know when you might still succeed, even when you've been given a no. So we go inside there, and we ended up talking to a different agent who we then explained the situation to again. So then he got his boss, who was the one that made the final decision, and then we explained the entire situation to him again. And he was actually surprisingly all right with the idea that we were bringing the truck across. What he wasn't fine with was the fact that we hadn't bonded the truck. And they said, "We don't know that you're not gonna sell it down there." I'm like, "No, I'm just taking it to the show, and that's it." And he's like, "Well, how can you prove to me that you're just doing that?" I said, "You know what?" Ripped off my shirt and showed him all these points and said, "You know what, man, like, this is my legacy." We took pieces of Chain Smoker and incorporated them into the tattoo. So there are full chains in the same style as the way that I've welded them there. On my chest, I've got the full grill of Chain Smoker, the front of it. It's not going anywhere. I'm never selling this truck. He looked at me in the eyes. He said, "You better not sell that fucking truck." And he said, "All right, go ahead. Let us go." And then we walked back to the truck, and with a little bit of a hop in our step, and boom, we were through. only taking 15 minutes of that hour and a half that we have left, including fill-ups, to get to our SEMA spot. We are now on the road and we are at a high. We are feeling confident. So we're across the border now, and we are on a close time limit here. We've got an hour and a half left of spare time between where we are right now to when we have to land in Vegas. That's not driving time. So we have barely enough time to fill up gas. We were cruising south. We're doing pretty good. We're actually catching, we're cruising as pretty much as fast as we possibly can. Across Montana, into Idaho, and it is now about 12 at night. So we've crushed a pretty solid shift through the middle of the mountains, middle of nowhere, and we creep to a stop. The fuel system on the truck completely shits the bed.
Oh, what the f***? It's not primed?
We jump outside, we can hear it sounds like there's air in the system, but the CP3 pump is clearly just absolutely had enough. I thought that might be the end of it. We had no time left. We were in the middle of absolute nowhere. I walked up to the top of a hill and I actually got a few bars of reception. I managed to get on the phone with Hooked Up Towing with Bryce there, and I literally thought before that moment that I was not going to make it to SEMA. I thought that was the end of it and that there was no coming out from this.
Will we make it to SEMA? Probably not.
We need to get straight to Vegas from where we're at. And he sends a flat deck truck, and then he takes his own personal truck and hooks it into the gooseneck. Says, all right, boys, it's now or never. And taking all of us 700 miles to Vegas. And miraculously, the most amazing part is that he got all of that done within 1 hour. So we had half an hour left now to do fill-ups before we got to Vegas. So he said, all right, we're doing it. Strapped up. Luckily, he had a slip tank, so we only had to do half as many fill-ups and loaded it up, sent us south. We crested over the hill, saw Vegas there. I couldn't even believe it.
Fabulous Las Vegas with Chainsmoker in tow. Absolutely would not have done it without my boy Bryce here. And we got Kale in the back. Love my team.
Unloaded it, got into our rollout time, and we had actually made it. We were unloaded, we were ready to roll.
We got Chainsmoker here. We have our transport truck driver Bryce leaving right now with my trailer that he's going to take back. See you, buddy. Thank you so much.
And that entire time, I'd also been posting about the build on my Instagram. I've been showing everybody along from point A all the way to point Z where we were at. And with that final blow, I was already as tapped out as I possibly could, and I just didn't even know that I could make it. So I put a call out to the people on my Instagram, and I said, hey, this is where I'm at. If anybody wants to help at all, it would be greatly appreciated. My mind was blown by the outpouring of support that I got. $3,000 within that first 24 hours, and then I shut it down. They like Chainsmoker just as much as I do. Or you guys like me. You really like me.
I'm in Vegas, mother. Chainsmoker.
We get to our roll-in spot, and it is the best spot. We're right in front of the central hall. Right above us is the giant SEMA sign. Right in front of us, the other way, is the SEMA button. So everybody that takes their photo with the SEMA button has us photobombing them in the background, which is great. Chainsmoker version 2 had never been properly together before. We had no time at all before we left, so we finished it and then we left. So when it got into its final SEMA spot, that was the first time that I actually got to sit back and look at the work that had been completed.
At any point in time, there's about 8 photos of this being taken from all angles.
This was it, and it still wasn't even it because still needed to even paint the C-notch. And then I ended up going across the street of the hotel and painting it in the bushes.
Lots of people out here enjoying Chainsmoker, and I'm just in the background of their photos, assembling the sign stand.
This took so much out of me. On the third day, I talked with my brother and I kind of let him know where I'm at in life, and he's like, you know what, bro, you need to have a little bit of money to enjoy yourself. So he gave me $500, and I literally had to get my PCR test for COVID that day, and I was with Kale, and the trip was on me, so I took the 250 each and I put that both into our PCR tests. And I remember specifically hanging out at Chainsmoker on the third day, and people are coming up and just being like, wow, that truck is amazing. Like, it's so incredible that you did this and that and this. And all that I could think of in the back of my head was like, what can I do to get these guys to buy me a sandwich?
The chains are smoking!
Had an awesome SEMA show, met tons of new people. Lots of people come up to the truck and just chat. It was fun. After the SEMA show, there is something called the SEMA Rollout / SEMA Ignited. So they basically have a cruise for everybody that's in the SEMA show to start up their engines and to drive past and basically get to see all the vehicles that were sitting there. You get to hear them, you get to see the whole experience drive past you.
Shiny, 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 not so shiny. Shiny, 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 shiny.
Most people driving through, they're just politely driving through. Enter Chainsmoker. I was really excited to be in this moment, so I kind of let it take me over.
Awesome call. All right.
I did just that. I was pushing my foot down, and you can hear those turbos before you can see me.
All right, Joe, here comes the Chainsmoker.
I've got a stage 6 clutch in this thing, so it gets pretty spicy. So when you let it off, you know, the wheels tend to spin. So I did a bit of a burnout. It was a minor little tiny guy. The crowd got hyped up. It was so much fun to actually finally get to show people this is what we got. And every high, that was probably one of the highest highs, is usually accompanied by a low, but it's just a matter of how hard of a low that is. And for me, it was a very scary cliff because as we're leaving, I am right behind Alex Choi in his Lamborghini STO. Everybody's cheering him on, and it was awesome. Alex does a burnout, and I'm like, oh, you know I gotta do it. I give her, drop the clutch, and oh yeah, tires are spinning, doing a greasy burnout. I'm on the brake, doing a bit of a brake stand. Love it, it's awesome. Crowd's getting into it beside us. As soon as I pop off the clutch pin that's holding it in pops off and the clutch pedal goes straight to the ground, but it's fully engaged. I instantly turn it off, slam on the brakes, and we just come to a stop in the middle of the rollout.
Oh, so this is fun. Here's the SEMA rollout. And here we are, of course, broken.
So I go to try to start it with the starter, and sure enough, it pops the fuse in the back. 250 amps clearly wasn't enough. We didn't have enough time to test this stuff. I instantly see that the pin has popped off, so I put that back on, and I just have to hold it with my hand. Found the fuse, threw it in, boom, back on the road. So we got back into Ignited.
We're not the only ones that are pushing.
We had a bit of a party with everybody and got to enjoy ourselves. We enjoy Ignited quite a bit. Professional drifters come out, show us their stuff. Had a blast. I'm starting to feel it in my veins. I want to do the same thing. I want to have some fun. One of the last things that we didn't quite get to before we left was the wiring. So we didn't actually have any lights. No brake lights, no turn signals, no headlights. And it's now nighttime in Vegas. But I mean, there's enough natural lighting in Vegas, right?
We are pulling out onto public roads.
Oh, God.
With no lights.
No lights, no brake lights, no turn signals, and the loudest turbos in the city.
Got to feel the torque, got to hear the turbos. Like, oh, it was so much fun. I said, you know what, Kale, hop out here. I'm going to do a burnout.
Okay, I'm going to turn right here.
I rolled up beside him, and there's a set of lights behind me where there's a lineup of traffic, but there's 3 cars in line there. The chance of one of those cars behind me being a police officer is quite slim. And sure enough, I do a burnout with no headlights, no taillights. It's basically just a car that disappears into a cloud of smoke. And sure enough, one of those 3 cars behind me was a police officer. So I hear whoop, and I see the lights flashing through the smoke.
Shit.
So I pulled into the hotel on the right, and I couldn't believe it. The police officer just drives right on by. So obviously the police are a little bit more chill. in Vegas, especially during SEMA week. They expect a little bit of debauchery. But it's pretty safe to say that my heart jumped out of my chest because I would have been in quite a bit of trouble if he had had a change of heart.
Pops right there. That's fun.
So after that, I decided to park it because I was done pushing my luck. The next morning, we were supposed to head out, so we hopped in Chain Smoker, did one final rip down the boulevard.
Yeah, buddy.
And went to the carrier truck depot,
Kind of goes up like chain smokers' airbags.
loaded up Chain Smoker onto the very top and the very front of one of these trailers, which was quite sketchy. Caught the flight back, got back to Calgary, and just was so dead that I basically hit my bed and didn't move for about 36 hours. And I still need to head back down to Idaho Falls to pick up my truck and trailer, but it's never ending, and that's what it takes when you're trying to chase your dreams. I was lucky enough to be one of the ones that say that I achieved it, and here it is, and it's not going anywhere. There's still a lot for us to come in the future. I don't really know where it'll go, but stay tuned and you'll find out.